Hmm.
Because you don't have it pushed all the way in.
I can't get it all.
Pull that thing down.
Yeah,
There.
I've done it a million times.
Okay. Slam it down with your palm of your hand.
Right now.
Yeah. Here, give it.
Sorry.
No, that. Oh.
With children, I'm sure they don't feel safe. I have neighbors who walk their animals. I'm sure they don't feel safe. I've seen, similar to my experience last evening, other people also almost run down on our street. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not incorporating anybody else. It's nobody's fault per se who is here on the board. Police presence or not, I don't see police on our street often. Don't really have a high crime issue, but the speeding is a serious, significant problem. And as Phyllis stated, and I agree, there are reputable ways of dealing with the problem. And I think that speed bumps are more than necessary. Incline on our street progresses, and unfortunately, I'm right in the middle of it. We're literally, just want to make sure I have the names correct. I'm literally in the middle between Bevington and Edgewood. And our incline starts at the bottom at Bevington and rises to Edgewood. And so of course, coming down that road is where most of the problem is. And I've noticed that people are neighbors, which is very unfortunate. I have this feeling that I know that person who just about. And sometimes I recognize that these are people just passing through the neighborhood as a shortcut, which again is a significant problem because they could care less about the people living there. And clearly some of my neighbors don't either. So I'm also asking for significant particular speed bumps. I think again, and even your website states that nationally, that's one of the safest. So I'm really hoping that you hear the community, and I hope you hear that we're desperately in need of traffic safety.
Well, I just wanted to let you know, or anybody else that was planning on speaking, Mr. Bioki, I don't believe we can get his audio yet.
We can get his audio.
But
Yeah,
he has, oh. Mr. Bioki?
yeah,
Okay, you've already started to address this issue. Is that correct?
that is correct. We are looking at speed limits. We're looking at speed humps. We're looking at other traffic calming methods.
I did notice recently somebody put on a traffic device that shows your speed as you're driving by. I laugh at that. It's a joke. Because I've watched people, because it's not on our section of the street, it's actually a few houses up from me. People speed by there. And then now the funny thing is I can see exactly how fast they're going. And it's not 25 miles per hour, which is the actual posted speed limit.
Just a minute, please. Mr. Brett, there will be someone from LSSE bringing this up tonight, correct? Fairfax? Okay, that report will be given later.
Yeah, so I hope that it's taken seriously because unfortunately, I think someone's going to get seriously hurt, if not killed. And then I don't know if that's going to even provoke a reaction. Hopefully, before that happens, we have something serious taking place. I would pity the person who hit me, especially if I was just my kid. So I really hope that this is taken seriously.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, did we get your specific address on Cascade?
257 Cascade.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else? Okay, then I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Abrams.
First report is Public Works. Mr. Watkins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abrams. Public Works, we begin our report with the manager's update. Do you have anything to update from previous meetings?
Specifically for Public Works, I do not. Everything will be covered as points of business.
Thank you very much. Next, what we have is the engineer's report. Mr. Brett?
Sorry about that. Just a couple updates. The road paving program contractor scheduled sometime in July. Had a pre-construction meeting and they had a couple projects finish. So sometime in the next month, we expect them in. Probably 6 weeks of work, plus or minus. Ardmore Boulevard, Avenue A. Bid opening for the rebid scheduled for early August. Along with Woodside, sewer replacement and Ashley Alley. So those three projects will be bid with one advertisement, try to save some money there on advertising. August, we'll be able to look at those. The Watt Lane trash rack has been completed, and we did include a few pictures of that work. So that item will be removed from the list. Sanitary sewers, you had two different GROW grant applications that went in. One for your consent order repairs that were left over from previous years on the Interceptor. That's the Interceptor that's to be dedicated over to Elkasan once those repairs are completed. And we also did a GROW grant application for your 10%.
Just so that everyone knows, your best estimate, that 10% reduction would mean how much in dollars and cents to this fine borough?
The GROW grant applications were around $1 million for each project. And it varies in amount. You can get anywhere from 10 to 30%. So both are significant if you get it. They're very supportive of both projects to be completed. 2025 is the due date.
So would it be fair to assume that we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 to potentially?
Yeah, 100 to 200,000 as far as GROW grant, and they're evaluating those over the next couple months.
Second, Mr. Baker,
I have a question about the Watt Lane trash rack, and this may be for Public Works. But the walkway between Braddock and I think we consider it Watt Lane, but that pedestrian walkway, was that closed because of the trash rack replacement, or is that a separate issue?
That walkway specifically was closed because there were steps going down and they were falling apart, and at the same time, they were building the road. They decided to just keep the road as the walkway and close down. That makes sense. Does that clarify the issue?
Kind of. It will once I walk it again, I'm sure. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question about walking grant, like walkway grant. We had like Woodside to Woodside, Ardmore to, I think, Avenue A.
The STEPS project.
Yes, what,
Yes.
I don't think I see it in your report.
Yeah, we have gotten all the information from McMahon, and we have done an initial walkthrough. And for next month, we should have a conceptual plan that we can show as far as that goes, and take a look at what the cost estimates are for that project. So
Okay. One more. I noticed you have the Fairfax speed bump in your report.
yes.
And I was wondering, did you actually talk to Public Works? Because, I'm on council for quite a while. Initially, it always was, people were talking that it's bad for snow plowing. And I think, as far as I know, Forest Hills has only 2 speed bumps, and they're both in Sherwood between Cherry Valley and Hosanna House. What is our experience with those speed bumps? Does the design work for snow plowing? Did you talk to each other? Yeah, I think. Sorry.
No, I have not communicated about the speed bumps on Fairfax. There are those 2 speed bumps at the end of Sherwood. They are larger speed bumps. I don't know what the design is that they're going to be putting in as far as speed bumps on Fairfax. My only concern would be with a plow is the anchoring system, how they're going in. Just you get a carbide, plow going down, it might rip it right off the road depending on how they're mounted.
Okay, good. So basically, you guys plan on talking to each other to make sure that
Yes.
the design works for Public Works. Okay, good.
I wasn't sure if this should be under public safety or under.
It's supposed to be under public safety, but we might as well talk about it now because there's concerns.
So back in November, we did do a study analysis for Bright Park, Ryan Glen Park, Forest Hills Park, and Fairfax Road. Fairfax Road, we did lay out where the two speed humps, and they're not bumps, so to speak. They're elongated speed humps. There's a PennDOT design criteria that they have to follow because these have been studied immensely. We do recommend that you put in temporary ones up front. I think that's we gave a spec sheet on that. Put them in, make sure everything's okay, and then put them in permanent then in order to alleviate the issue that somebody may rip them out, hit them with a plow. We bid them with the road programs, then the following year. You have multiple areas that you've looked at. On Fairfax, because of the grade, there's two spots that it does meet the criteria for humps because of grade. The next area we did look at that the residents mentioned downstream, it does not meet the criteria for speed. Exceeds it by quite a bit, but they do have an alternative method that is basically thick plastic lines that you put down, thermoplast lines, but sometimes you see these on a turnpike, but they make a noise. Whenever you run over it. So because this is a residential area, even though it's a proven method, it'll slow cars down because people think they've hit something. So they slow down. But because it's in a residential area, you're going to get complaints because of if it was in an open area without residents, without question, we would recommend it. But in this case, we think it's a problem. The issue with the speed humps on excessive grades is not going down the hill. But when you come up the hill, especially in the winter, here, the speed hump increases the percent of the road by 2 or 3%. So now section of road that's 11% gets somewhere between. So because we're not in the south, we're in the north. Once you get above, I think it's 9%. We don't recommend speed humps then because folks can have trouble even on wet roads. And you do have a very hilly terrain community. So as this is your first steps into the speed humps, I think cautious on where you put them because they work on one street and then the next street they don't because of the topography is on it. So we do recommend always put them in temporary first. Permanent, then you bid them with the road program and they're permanent then. As far as the concern with Public Works, we always have the discussion with them and make sure that you're equipped with them. And again, that's why you put them in temporary too up front because temporary are forgiving, where if we put them in permanent, right, especially on hilly terrain, it's a little more difficult. You have done the analysis on the first 4. Positive once you put in the first 4. Common in communities now once you start putting speed humps. Any questions on that?
Since we are talking about it and I'm getting, and Mike is starting to get into this, what do we need to do for those specifically? I know we have a drawing so that get installed and start looking at the actual effects.
The temporary ones that we list, you can just order them, get a price on them, order them, and then Public Works, you do have to put special signage up, add all those. We've included that in the diagrams we provided. We did mark them survey wise so you can actually see them in the field. That's the paint marks everybody's seen.
I had a question.
This might be for Mr. Brett or Abrams or anyone. Is this drawing, is this something that we're able to give to the public to view at this
Oh,
point?
yes. It's also
Thank you.
attached to your report this evening, so.
That was nice.
Post our November 30th memo. That can post it for everybody to get if you want. Public record. Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't see any other questions, so thank you very much, Mr. Brett.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda. Oh, Angela, do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I wanted to point out that we already purchased enough speed humps, temporary speed humps for at least 2 locations. Those were intended for Ryan Glen Park and Bright Park. So we already have the material. There may be enough left over for one other location, but so we've already started that process last year.
Thank you very much for updating us. If there are no other questions, we will proceed to the foreman's report. And for those of you who are new attendees to the meeting, I'd like to introduce Mike Smith. He's our new foreman for Public Works.
My first time, so I just wrote a little list here. I'm sure you guys have some things. My list varies a little differently than what was on yours, not by much, but there's a couple of things. When I first started, we started the rec center project that's going on, all the updatings and things like that. We cleaned around the property, re-tilled the bocce courts and screeded those. Volleyball courts, cleaned those up, cut the grass, bushes, maintenance like that. Installed new plug covers all around under the deck at the rec center. Ran board for the contractors to make sure that they didn't tear up the new floor that was put down. And then conduit was ripped up at some point when they ground a stump between the 2 bocce courts months ago, I would say, and we replaced that conduit that supplied power to the lamps there. The next project we completed was on the boulevard. There was old tree rings on the boulevard that were just, the trees died and collecting weeds. So we took the rings out and put coal patch down. Well, my previous boss did that. So we dug the old coal patch out, found the conduit, put boxes in, and then concreted all around, just so we got rid of the cones and the coal patch on the boulevard. We also had to install a missing street lamp light that was hit. The next project, Bright Park, that was overgrown with weeds in the 5-bar. We dug that all out, moved down 6-8 inches, installed new mulch, and then cleaned the equipment as well while we were there. The main park was another one that we did the same thing, dug out a lot of the 5-bar and redid all that. Redid the sand pit for the kids there. The merry-go-round was broken. We did have a new one in the garage. We installed that, as well as rebuilt the seesaw that snapped in half from wood. So we took that out and redid that. Some missing border pieces around the playground as well we replaced, and painted various things like the shelter doors, gates, and some benches that were existing. We had a little bit of leftover 5-bar from that project, so we went over to Ryan Glen and redid the same thing, dug that out, and installed new 5-bar. After that, we put some water barrels in at the Avenue A and E garden bed, cleaned the spreaders, took them off the trucks, the salt spreaders, power washed them, checked them for maintenance, tightened chains, things like that, and sprayed them with the protectant. And just some miscellaneous things. So, we had some windstorms, so there was a bunch of trees down that we had to take care of across roads. Grass cutting, the regular maintenance of that, park cleaning, the speed signs that were spoken about earlier. We've moved those around several times to collect the data. Filling the water barrels, bus stop garbage. There was a burned out green light on Morrow Road that we took care of. Various dead deer we picked up. Adding one-way signs to Atlantic, the pool maintenance that is ongoing throughout the season, set up and tear down for various events, and lastly, emergency sewer calls that would happen. We would clear blockages.
Mr. Smith, I would like to say I've never seen the parks look better. I went by Bright Park and somebody hung a little wreath on the door,
Thank you.
the gate. It really looks nice. Thank you for
I
all your
appreciate it.
efforts.
Yeah, I just want to second that. She stole my thunder, but the parks look really good. Thank you. I had some residents approaching me about how bad they were starting to look
Yeah.
with weeds and everything, and they just look really good. So
Yeah,
thank
they were
you.
due, so.
I do have a question. There's the road going from Ardmore up to Centurion Commons. So between St. Maurice and Centurion
Yes,
Commons.
yes,
Is that our property?
the parking lot, like that cuts across from top of Centurion over to,
No. The road from Ardmore going up to the top. It curves around,
to Centurion Drive.
Yes, Centurion
Yes,
Drive.
so yeah, we maintain that. Yes, that is ours.
So there was a failing manhole there, which I believe, I don't know who fixed it. I think you guys did, but
We
there
got the
was,
contractor with that was, the Borough Mines, I believe. That was an issue with them, and then there was a blockage. I don't know the exact
They
details.
fixed
Seth
it,
might know, yeah.
but because of that failing manhole, there's a lot of erosion coming down the side. And now there's all these cones up. I just wondered if there's gonna be any, I don't know if we have to discuss, yeah.
So actually, I'm going to put Mr. Brett on the spot possibly. But Lennon Smith has been dealing with the contractor and with the folks at Centurion Commons because it is their responsibility
Oh, okay.
to repair it to condition or better. And they have been given notice as far as they're starting to hit their timelines. And
Okay.
they are showing they're making progress towards moving towards it, but that is actually their responsibility, and Lennon Smith is working on.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure whose it was, so, thank you.
All right, one more question for Mr. Smith. On the sewer blockages, do you have just an approximate count and whether there were any like new surprise areas or kind of spots you would have expected?
No, they were both surprises. The one was on Concord Road and the other was on Wilkins. The one we did notice on Concord, one of the manholes was bubbling over, so we noticed the problem. We took care of that and actually made the engineer aware of the problem. It was a blockage, but the way that the sanitary system is set up isn't correct. So that's hopefully going to get taken care of at some point. The other one was a resident called. He was getting sewage in his backyard, and the line did run behind him. But we did take care of that blockage. So,
Thank you.
Hey, are there any other questions for the foreman? Nope. Nope. Okay. No new business for Public Works, and that concludes our presentation.
Into Borough Property, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you. Is there a manager's update for this or moving on? Saving for later?
The only update I have, and actually I think I put it in the wrong spot, so I'll cover it here, is the Steps and Walkways grant. I walked that with a couple of the engineers from Lennon Smith. This was a grant that was awarded, I believe, in 2023, had been started by another engineering firm. And the only thing that we found as they were bringing me up to speed on the scope and everything is there were some concerns about one of the walkways because it leads straight out into Route 30 without any crosswalks or anything else. So we'll be modifying the scope on that, likely removing it and making sure that that's can't be interpreted as a proper area to cross 30. And then working on the engineers will be working on the probable costs and the overall scope with that reduced scope and the new pricing, since that grant is now about a year and a half old from when we applied for it. If there's spare, we'll have to look and see if anything can be added to that scope.
Thank you. Any items from the rec board to pass along?
I received no information.
Can we have the engineering report, please, Mr. Brett?
Yes, update on property, the various contracts, quick update on those. The roof replacement contract and HVAC, all works being completed. Contractor has submitted, will be submitting their final pay request. We have requested warranty information and operation manual. Aluminum handrail, we have provided a punch list to the contractor. Some items have been completed, some haven't been. We're awaiting a schedule from him on those last few items. Pressure washing has been completed. Final pay estimate should be being submitted. The restroom contracts, they're working on the floors currently. There is all work has been completed. We did provide a punch list, which they're working on as they go for both the electrical and the general contractor. We'd expect over the next. It's everything's like a set of dominoes now. One contractor gets his work done, and then the finishing contractors come in behind. So you don't see a whole lot of activity over there, but there is rationale for it. The light fixture guy can't.
Please
So,
speak into the mic. It's just kind of hard to hear
Hard
you,
to hear.
Kevin. Thanks.
so with the restroom work, are you confident that will be done before our rental of the trailer is out?
I believe yes. They said they're going to be finished in July. We don't have any reason to believe.
Thank you.
They are trying to work around the rental schedule currently. Certain days they specifically don't work.
Mr. Erbaldinger?
I did a walkthrough, and I believe we had in our initial scope, like sound system, making sure that the sound system for the rec works with the sound system of the pavilion, having like a screen coming down off the ceiling with a projector. Is that stuff going to happen this year or next year?
Green is a third party quote that we've requested. It's not done within this current contract, so there's people who specialize in that. So we're going to work with manager and it'll either happen. One item I'm concerned about with the screen now that I see the lights and everything. Vendor to come in and show us what the options are, because it'll ruin the look if we put it back where it was. Have a very different looking space now, and it's coming along, but that's the last finishing touches is to get that screen. Sound system we didn't have in the scope. Again, we can get a third party price on that.
We wanted to make sure that the app is Apple and the Westinghouse is Google, and it doesn't talk to each other. I think that was important.
Yeah, we can work with Seth on that to come up with some options.
Mr. DeQuash, the question?
Could I move on from Westinghouse for a second? Is that okay? I have a question for you.
Yeah, but
Mr. Brett.
that's the
Yep,
update.
okay. I know we've been focused on that, so I don't want to take away from that, but my understanding is that we've installed this air conditioning to the pool lodge. And it's not, we can't turn it on because it doesn't service that space. And my
Siemens.
oh, that's Siemens.
Yes.
Ah,
And
okay.
we're working with them on that.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
You're off the hook on this one.
Okay, that one was new to me.
If you would have saw the
I got
look on your
worried.
face.
Right, sorry, I mixed you guys up.
No problem. Any other questions?
On the steps and walkways, I think we did cover everything that we were discussing then. Do we want to talk about if we were to have an additional area to address with any spare money? Do we want to bring that up now for discussion, or is that? Or are we getting ahead of ourselves on
I
that?
think we're getting ahead because we'll need to check and see if we have the option of expanding beyond the scope to a different set of stairs, if there is spare money, and if we are limited, obviously there's some additional space along Coke that we could probably work through. if we are limited to just the areas that we originally applied for.
Okay, thank you. I think that is something for general citizens to be aware of. If there's thoughts, to please let us know about your favorite steps in need of attention. Okay, moving on, we have a tree and shrub committee item, which is there are two. I thought we had a third. Who's that? No. Okay, we do have two individuals who are interested in joining the tree and shrub committee. I'm not familiar with procedures. That's something we would vote on at the business meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so we will have that as a motion at the business meeting. I do know both of them from attending the tree and shrub committee meetings, and I think they're both extremely qualified and dedicated, and will personally recommend that we approve them at the business meeting. And that is the end of borough property, unless, sorry, Vice Chair, Mr. DeCosta.
So I just wanted to let you know, and Seth and Mr. Abrams and I spoke too, but I was just asking sort of for a tentative schedule of what the tree, what the new tree care program from Horhut looks like. What, sorry, I always think I'm right on it. You know, in other words, what are our priorities? What has already been done? What's next on the list? Are we responding to residents who have major concerns about, you know, failing trees in their yards and stuff like that? So I just want to let you know that we discussed it, and apparently they're preparing something soon, so.
Thank you. That concludes borough property. Thank you.
Next is public safety, Mr. Baoki.
Sorry, bear with me for a moment. Can we get the chief's report, Chief Williams?
Thank you, Chairman Berg. As we know, this is going to be the 4th of July weekend coming up, and my concerns are always about people driving and maybe having a little too much fun out there, and you know, then there's the fireworks and people leaving their homes unattended because they go away, let's say. So several things there are. One, please don't drink and drive during the holiday. Please just go somewhere and stay there and don't plan on leaving. Secondly, fireworks are not always the safest things to have out there, and certainly not for children. So unless you have the proper amount of space to do anything with the ground level type firework, I would not do it. We've seen injuries where people do hurt themselves with these things, and they have really great displays down in the city and a few other places that are really nice to see. Third is don't leave your house and not leave a light on or something that makes it at least look like you're there. I mean, we don't want anybody to see totally dark homes when it's night, and probably there should be a light on somewhere. So help us out there. And again, as I always say, if you see anything or hear anything that's unusual or suspicious, call 911. Don't think that, oh, I'll call tomorrow, or, you know, maybe I'll check with my neighbor. Don't do that. Just call us. We'll come out and take a look. If it's nothing, that's fine. I say it all the time. 10 times we might go out and find nothing, and one time
Mr. Bayhookie.
Okay, yeah, I got the room back again. I believe Chief Colella is not available. And I believe we'll get those reports before the business meeting. The first item on the agenda was about the placement of the parking signs or no parking signs on Pacific Avenue. Just so you know, that was part of the alternate parking on the left side of that road. I resolved that offline earlier today. Those locations for the no parking signs will be marked by an LSSE representative. And then once that takes place, we can have the signs placed, and then PLP will come in and paint those areas to further identify where people can park and not park. The next item, I think we've already thoroughly discussed. It was about the speed humps, and that is all that I have for the committee.
Operations and Policy, Mr. Lawrence.
Yes, Mr. Abrams, your report.
So as part of my overall report, council has in their packet been settling in, especially towards the end of June, having the regular meetings, including with staff, with mayor, with the chief, our engineer, still working through the auditors, regular communication with Forhut, consensus our IT provider, as well as we are now also engaged with a shared energy manager program that had is part of a cohort that we were in earlier, that it assisted us with some energy pieces. They are assisting us now with a review of our Siemens project to make sure that we are getting everything out of it that we can. Been reaching out and having communication as needed with the various committees, Parks and Rec, EAC, Tree and Shrub and Planning. We've been moving forward quite a bit with the IT projects that were in progress. We've finished moving our financial software over to the cloud. Mr. Bayhookie will be happy to know that we've created some additional space by rack mounting the new equipment. So there's additional room in the closet there. And beginning to look at other ways, working with staff and other ways that we can continue to be more responsive to the needs of our residents as far as when payments need to be made for items, whether it be permits, recycling bins or other pieces. I did go and review our accounts and prepared some of the transfers that we had discussed at the last finance meeting, just to take advantage of some interest rates. Been working with Jordan Tax on resolving some billing issues, as well as continuing to look at options for the sewer billing that we've been discussing. Otherwise, I am, as I said, continuing to delve into the details of the borough and of some continued IT plans beginning the 25 budgeting, looking to further discuss having the COG work as our code enforcement. And council also has, after that, a list of the projects that we've been working on with some tentative timeframes, just to keep all of us honest. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. And then what did you do on Tuesday after all that was done? Madam President, since I'm not going to be able to see if someone raises their hand, you can be in charge of making sure people get to speak, because I won't be able to see that. It doesn't look like we have a lot here. One is a member of the EAC representing the EAC came to council and requested we would have a non-binding resolution in support of the county's consideration of a plastic bag ban. The city, as you know, did that last year. It's not fully implemented yet, and the county is now looking at it. You have a sample resolution. If anybody has, I think it would be nice if we say it is non-binding. We're not doing it on our own in Forest Hills. But I would encourage the members of council tonight to decide to support that and put that on the business meeting for a vote. Does anyone
Any
have?
comments, questions?
So I think we should, what Jack said, we should probably go for it and do it.
Mr. Bacon?
I believe our biggest potential user of plastic bags in the borough, which I would assume to be Aldi, already does not use plastic bags, and we're a good chunk of the way there, I think. And I'm strongly in support of it.
Else? I don't see any other hands up.
Question. How does this impact retailers? Gonna have an impact on retailers? Are we gonna issue a ban?
Did you hear that, Mr. Lawrence?
Well, there would be the county. I'm not sure your question. It would be a county ban. We're just
Countywide, but has that been adopted yet, or are they?
Oh, no,
considering it
it's
right
just,
now?
no, they're just tossing it around. That's all. I mean, I have no idea what's going to go through. Or
So
not.
my question is, if we adopt, I'm sorry, I want to be clear. Are we just gonna follow suit with the county, or are we getting out in front of it and adopting it early?
Oh, no. This is just a non-binding resolution saying we would like to see the county do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, we're not proposing doing that on our own.
Okay, great. I agree with the premise and the spirit of the legislation.
Mhm.
But anytime you adopt something like that, you have to take into consideration the retailers in the community that it's going to impact. And we've got to afford them an opportunity to do some long-term planning as a result of that. I just wanted the clarification on it. Thank you.
And
Thank you for your clarification.
And that will be the county's job to do that. If it helps, about 2 years ago, someone did come to us and say, why didn't we ban it in Forest Hills? And there are a lot of exceptions to these plastic bag bans. And for most of the retailers in Forest Hills, they would fall under those exemptions. Aldi's doesn't give them away. Pharmacies, food suppliers, the restaurants, they all are given an exemption. So, basically the only thing left that gives out a bag is probably the AutoZone, and I've never gotten one for a muffler. So I think it would be, we felt it was just not something we should spend our time on. Okay.
You had your hand up, Mr. DeCrosta? Okay. I think that's it then on that one. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Okay. Second, as you know, there's been a lot of questions and constituent input on the use of the room right behind you there. Had a lot of input. It is under ops and policies. However, the solicitor, Mr. Corbel, has been asked to produce a thorough review for everyone on council and all our constituents, explaining the legal issues that actually drove this question in the first place and proposing a couple options for us to look at. Mr. Corbel will present those in the public meeting of COW next week. And at that point, everyone will hopefully get a really clear understanding of the issues underlying it and come up with a good way to resolve the problem and keep everyone happy. So I would ask your forbearance to wait until the COW meeting next week on next Tuesday.
Any comments or concerns? No one's hand is up.
I don't believe I have anything else on the agenda for me tonight. Anyone else?
Mr. Bacon has his hand up.
Just to explain for anyone not aware, COW would be committee of the whole, this equivalent meeting next week.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else?
Does anyone else have questions? Mr. Lawrence is asking.
I have my hand up.
Please go ahead, Mr. Baoki.
Yeah, this is, we don't have this on the agenda, but I wanted to address something that came up at the May business meeting is regarding the ordinances. for the appointed committees, commissions, and advisory councils. These drafts were distributed to all council members who could have shared them with committees they serve a liaison to well in advance of our vote that evening. Also, on several occasions during our committee's meetings, Mr. Lawrence asked if there were any questions or concerns and to let him know. None were forthcoming. Way back at the March 7th Committee of the Whole meeting, Mr. Erbaldinger asked about the new EAC ordinance being drafted and stated something to the effect that the EAC was interested in the new ordinance, but they have the old ordinance and can work on their end to see what they come up with. As their liaison, he had every opportunity to keep them informed throughout the process. That same evening, Mr. Corbel noted he was working on all the ordinances and bylaws and wanted to make sure that they all flowed in line with the previous ordinances. Further, the ordinances, as they were drafted, were all either provided clarification of responsibilities or in some cases removed inappropriate or outdated responsibilities. So I just wanted to point that out for everyone.
Thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Erbaldinger has
I
his
just
hand
would
up.
like to address Angelo's comments. I remember explicitly, I asked in executive session because we talked about, it was legal advice and Mr. Corbel presented the first draft. Can we share those drafts with respective committees? And I was told I can't do it because it's draft stage. So I asked to share the drafts with the committees way, way early. And again, those ordinances are like 10+ years old. I felt like at the meeting in May, another month or two won't hurt anyone, and just simply asked to table those. I didn't say to reject those ordinances. I just felt like your council agreed to share those final versions with the respective committees via email with the respective committee chairs. When it happened, as I requested, but it happened like 2 days on Monday, 2 days before we were voting. I just thought 2 days is not simply not enough time to respond. That's why I asked for tabling it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence, I would like to comment as well, please.
Please. Please.
When I talked to other council members about this, I discovered that only 2 members of council had actually served on a committee, myself and Mr. Bioki. We were on the Environmental Advisory Council Committee, and Patty DeMarco was our liaison. At our committee, we were actually provided the ordinance. And I looked at that thing, and the first thing I said was, do we have to do all this? We're volunteers. And the answer was no. This was a suggested guideline for responsibilities. Now, I know the EAC, we looked at like stormwater. Nobody knew anything about that. We did write one article for the Tree City Times that had something to do with like rain gardens and how that could help you out. But if you've ever looked at documentation for stormwater management, that's something for an engineer to do, not us, not our neighbors. We're not experts. We're not engineers. So there was actually, no one forced you to do anything. If you wanted to, fine. I know a person left, now I think, what is it, 4 or 5 years? They wanted to start taking a Tai Chi class, so they resigned. Chief Williams never visited her house. Code enforcement never sent any kind of letter, and their firstborn is safe. Nothing happened. These are all volunteer organizations, and no one was required to do anything. So I was asked, why didn't I respond at the business meeting? Because actually, I was shocked because we never had to do anything we didn't want. If we did Earth Day and a resident or a member didn't want to do it, that was fine. Nobody was compelled to do any of this. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Madam President. Anything else?
Mr. Bacon has his hand up.
Please,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bacon.
I'd just like to explain my standing on that same issue, which that in my opinion, my desire to table the ordinances and then my no votes on them in the same direction was specifically due to the timing and the need that I perceived to respect the wishes of our volunteers to have more engagement in the process of their own committee governances. I think we're in a good place of fostering volunteers in that spirit in this borough, and I want to see that continue and make sure that everyone on those committees who had concerns or just wanted to make sure that they had a chance to properly review everything was given the time to do so. I would like us to just fully keep in mind that if the ordinances are, I'm not even sure what the word would be with the veto and overturn, however that were to go, what the cost would be to the borough to repost ordinances if necessary to repeat the process and balance that with the need to maintain trust and engagement with our volunteers throughout the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Anyone else? That's it.
All right. If no one else have anything else for ops and policies, I believe that is it for all of us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.